Hey guys, it's Jim Bounds of Motorhome Rehab Ranch, and today, as the title said, we're going to talk about this. This is a fuel vapor separator. Now, if it looks a little odd and you've never seen one, I can understand that because it was only used on two vehicles. Yeah, used on a GMC, and it was used on a 1971 Corvette. Right. So it is an unusual part. It's hard to get. Okay, it's been knocked off. It's reproduced. Still says Rochester Products, but it's not. Right. You can buy these from Jeff Serum, Jim Kanemata at Applied. These should. What does this do? All right, in the fuel system. Take a look here a second. Right here in this fuel system. Here's. It's kind of tough here. Here's your fuel tank. Okay. Now, the fuel inlet pipe comes into the tank at a quarter level, not at the top of the tank. See, like most fuel tanks, the fuel comes into the top. Our fuel comes into the side. And when the fuel gets to the point that it's above the fill, when it gets above this point right here, the fuel has to push to get into the tank, which creates a pressure zone right here. This pressure zone would stop fuel. You know how like when you're filling up and it pops fuel back? The reason for that is there's a pressure zone up here. Now the first 15 gallons or 20 gallons in each tank, first 30 gallons, goes in pretty well. But after it gets to that point, it starts creating this pressure zone and it kicks back. Now, to stop that, today they have them built into the tank and all kinds of things. But back at this time, this is when they just first started trying to have active ventilation to the tanks. On the top of the tank, by the way, when you do drop your tanks, look at this this barb fitting on the top of the tank because it's pressed into the metal tank. A lot of times they'll break loose and they'll start leaking. Okay, but coming off of here is a line that goes to this vapor separator right here, to this fuel vapor separator. Okay, now you got two tanks. It's true. This fuel vapor separator is right in here, and down below it there's a T. Those two 3/8 lines come from each one of the tanks, tees together and goes into this single vapor separator. Okay, now what it does, it's like this. There is call it a ping pong ball, a ball that floats in fuel that as air goes through here, which we want to have it vent, right? But the problem is as it tries to vent, it also sucks fuel up. And the fuel will get up in here and it starts to fill this little cavity up. Now that little ball that's inside, remember we talked about that? The ball floats to the top, and then it blocks off the outlet. Okay, let me show you. Watch. That blows. You turn it upside down where the ball is on the seat right there, it won't blow. So that's what this vapor separator does. It's designed to allow air to flow, vent to flow up to the canister until this fills up and blocks it. Then your fuel pops back. Then the fuel has to gurgle back into the tank, get ventilation, so then you can vent again. Make sense? This was only used in a 71 Corvette and a GMC because after this point, they realized better ways to do it and they built all this stuff into the tank. But we have to deal with this because these are the tanks that we have. All right. This is a replaceable part. It has a movable part inside. Okay. So it's 50 years old, it's not a bad idea to replace this because it will directly affect how well you fill the coach. Now, if you've had your coach for any length of time, you know that it feels very slow, right? The problem is this. This fuel tank has a 3/8 vent. Goes into the vapor separator, a 3/8 vent. But the second tank goes in it too, so it cuts down by 50% the ventilation to those two tanks, because all the ventilation has to go through this thing. And guess what? When it comes out, remember we said this is a 3/8? This is a 5/16 line. So there is an obstruction built in right here that as your tanks fill up with fuel, boom, it fills up because the vent is half the size of the vent that's down here. And this 5/16 vent goes all the way to the front to the vapor canister, which is under the passenger front seat. You follow? So you can see where the obstruction is for our vent system. It's right here. You follow? So what are we going to do? Let's put 2 of these in. Go to each tank and put the 3/8 into here and come off of here. One will be in the factory. There's a rubber line, then it goes to steel and goes forward. You run a second 5/16 line from the other separator into this. I mean, from the other separator all the way forward to the vapor canister. Now, right where the 5/16 line goes into the vapor canister, cut a hole right there and stick the hose in. This hose does not have pressure on it. It's a suction. So we're not really worried about it being real tight or anything like that. In fact, this had clamps on it because they wanted to come off, but there's not really that much pressure here. You follow what I'm saying? So you want to put 2 of these in here. So here, follow me here. Come on in. I'm going to pull this one out, show you how to do it. All right. So the first thing you do is jack your coach up. Okay. Jack your coach up, and here's the unit. Come on in here. Okay, can you see it? Here's the unit. Now you see it's got a metal plate. Now these 2 screws right here. This is a well, I'm using an 11 millimeter, but what is it, 5/16? What is it? Oh, let me see. Now here it is, 3/8. Yeah. And you just get that loose. Oh, it's a 7/16. See, I should have been more prepared. Right. It's a 7/16. So if you can get these 2 nuts, because this is a nut and a bolt in here. If you can get them both loose. That's true. I went in here and got this loose before. I just talked to a guy on the phone that he was doing this and broke off the bolts. Well, that's fine because it's nuts and bolts and you'll be able to put in new ones. All right. Now, when you take this off, here's the plate. You see what I'm saying? It's bent. A lot of people will bend it down to get in there, but if you take these 2 nuts off, you can get in there to it. Now, I've already pulled these off. See, I've got a 3/8 line here and a 5/16 line here. You take these off. Then turn it upside down. Actually, the way to do this is put a 3/8 line on here and put fluid in it, put water into it. Let this fill up with water and see if any fluid comes out here. You follow what I mean? Because if it does, this is not working. And it's 50 years old. The new one looks just like it. Okay? So what we're going to do here, now remember, I only have 1 fuel tank. So in the end, I'm going to put a second one, just like this, back to back. Get 2 longer bolts. get two longer bolts and bolt this thing up right there. You follow what I mean? Then you'll have two vapor separators. Each fuel tank, you'll take a 3/8 line, go into the bottom, and then you got a 5/16 here. You're going to bring another one around here, and then you're going to follow that line all the way to the front. That way you get a second vapor separator. You got a second line for vent, and you'll be able to vent. You'll be able to fill a whole lot easier when you do this. Make sense? All right. So what we're going to be doing here is because I don't have two tanks, I'm going to put in a new vapor separator. I mean, I'm already here. I mean, 50 years old, what could go wrong, right? So I'm going to change this out. I'm going to put a new vapor separator in here on mine. Ask me questions. See if you understand what I'm talking about here, all right? Because this really is pretty important. To vent those tanks, more ventilation will allow you to put the fuel in quicker. And it's still the same vent system. Now, I just talked to a guy about this. I would tell you that the fuel system, the inlets, the feed, the outlets, if you're running a carburetor and you want to use both tanks and all that, the fuel selector and all that, that's fine. The original design is perfect except for this, except for the ventilation to each tank. Each tank needs more ventilation. All right. Well, I hope this makes sense. And I would just replace this anyway. It's too daggum old. That's why I'm doing it. It's just too old. So, give me your questions. Thank you for your support. We'll be getting into some more videos and things like that here soon. I know I told you, you ranch hands that follow me on a weekly basis, I said the next video was going to be about the 200 amp Delco alternator. Sorry, I'm going to come up with this one first. We have technical difficulty. I'm waiting for the bracket kit because I'm going to install it on mine and let you guys watch. Yeah, if you didn't hear about this on the last Patreon video, it wasn't on YouTube, but on the last Patreon video, I introduced a Delco bolt-in 200 amp one wire alternator. We've got a ranch hand that has put this together, and he's going to offer it in two versions. One, just the brackets, and the brackets are a little bit of work. So one, just the brackets, or two, if you don't have any alternator shops or anywhere that you can get a 21 SI, he's going to offer it with the alternator and with everything. Okay. You guys are going to go to the GMC International Rally coming up. He's going to be there, so stay tuned. I'm going to give the details of where he's going to be, so you guys can get together. All you ranch hands can get together. Sorry I can't go there. They've got me with all kinds of medical things I've got to do. So, but I'll be there in spirit. Hey, maybe we'll do a Zoom or something like that. All right. Well, look, thanks. I hope this helps you, and we'll talk to you next time.